something that is very easy to manipulate. So first of all, maybe there were people who got followers because they earned it, but also because it started to get easy to rig the system once more. It's easy to buy followers, it's easy to buy engagement, it's easy to move your friends to be like, hey, can you comment? It's easy to rig the system. Now suddenly, what maybe had more status before or more hierarchy before, it gets diluted again. It doesn't mean that whoever has a ton of followers that they don't have talent or mastery, because you gotta maintain it. But it also means that because anyone can now play, the marketplace is becoming very noisy. Hello my dearest entrepreneur friends, welcome back to another video. Or if you are listening to this one on the Only Channel podcast, welcome back to the podcast. We are back in studio and I have a cozy pillow behind me and it's the best thing ever. Today I want to talk about hierarchies, and this conversation is a conversation I was having inside of my program I'm currently running live. It's called The Art of the Approach, and this is not dating approach, this is business approach. Even though I do believe that whatever you're learning in here is actually something you can apply in your dating life as well, because principles are universal. But this is about business approaches. How do we approach people in a way that is respectful, unique, and memorable, and that doesn't make them run away far from us? So in the conversation of the art of the approach, we have a module that I just delivered live about 2 days ago, and this module is about status immunity. And status immunity means, in a nutshell, when you're facing another person, you don't start to minimize yourself or overcompensate. Like, you don't go to low status or try to one-up the other person, but you're able to meet them at eye level, no matter who they are. And it's not about not recognizing someone's achievements or someone's work. It's about recognizing their work, but also recognizing yours as well, and meeting them as humans. Hashtag human to human, since that's the body of work I'm building anyway. Side note over. So in that conversation, we talked about hierarchies first, and I want to kind of share that bit with you right now, because the way hierarchies are and were in the past and the now is completely different, and I want to bring a brand new way to think about it as well. Once upon a time, back in the days, hierarchies actually had a function. And if you think about the elders, the one with the wisdom, their hierarchy came from lived experience. Their hierarchy in the society came from the fact that they've been through some shit, right? So because they'd been through some shit, they lived through storms, naturally society or even within a family can look up to them and be like, yeah, you know some things, like you can tell us where not to go or how to not get eaten by a bear. That's so helpful. So their hierarchy came from lived experience. It came from going through life and living life longer than the people who were younger. And because of that, they naturally got hierarchy and then naturally got respect because they were elders. It was stewardship, and it was about just simply having more experience in life that naturally granted them hierarchy. And it wasn't a power move. It wasn't a I'm dominating because I live longer. It was genuinely given to them out of respect for their experience, and them giving that wisdom and experience back to the people who are younger. That was hierarchy back in the days. It wasn't forced out of people. It was given to them freely out of respect for actual earned wisdom. Now, let's keep going and moving through time. And we enter into an era of what I like to call role-based hierarchy. This is when you have teachers who are to be respected and to be in higher hierarchy because of the roles they play. For example, if you are a teacher, then you ought to be respected because the role, aka the teacher, commanded respect, right? So we were starting to give higher hierarchy or higher status to teachers simply because they were in the role of a teacher. And that was all fine too, because back in the days, to become a teacher or to become someone of role-based status, you actually had to earn it. And you earn it by competence, and you earned it by mastery. Like, no matter what you were doing, not just teaching, but if you had mastery, if you had competence, you earned the role, and therefore with that came a higher status, right? So people could respect you because you actually had mastery and to earn it. And in terms of teachers specifically, and I don't want to offend anyone, this is not the goal, but what has happened over time is that there are certain roles that came easier to acquire. So nowadays, I'm not sure how it is in your country, but in Europe, especially for a kindergarten or primary school teacher, the barrier of entry is not that high. And some people can just pay their way through university. They can become teachers. What happens is that whoever is now holding the role of a teacher, or whatever that we are talking about that now has role-based hierarchy, is not necessarily always the person who is the most competent and who has the highest mastery, who has high intelligence, emotional intelligence. Like, there isn't that high earned competence and wisdom anymore that used to be back in the days. It's just like anyone can acquire that role if they wanted to, especially nowadays. And so because of that, there is dilution in the field. It doesn't mean that all people who have role-based statuses, they are incompetent. It's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is because there is dilution of role-based statuses, it started to lose its own essence. So people now naturally like, okay, well, anyone can be like that. Anyone can do that. So as society, we're no longer looking at that role specifically and be like, well, I respect it so much. It became this, well, not so much because, yeah, like anyone can do this, basically. Does that make sense? So it's not because there's something wrong, but it's because it's got wider that it started to lose its own hierarchy. And because the entry was lowered. And as society, we naturally started to shift to look at different metrics. And we arrive in the era of social media. What we have started to do is we are trying to look at external markers like amount of followers, engagements, visibility. And what ended up happening is that that's what we thought, okay, if you have followers, if you have engagement, if you have attention, visibility, in the brain it goes, oh, you must be someone who's very high status. You must be very high in your hierarchy, and of course money and all those things. But we started to kind of add attention, visibility, external markers, followers, engagements as a marker, as a signal of hierarchy and status and high status. Does it make sense? And what really is behind it is something that is very easy to manipulate. So first of all, maybe there were people who got followers because they earned it, but also because it started to get easy to rig the system once more. It's easy to buy followers, it's easy to buy engagement, it's easy to move your friends to be like, hey, can you comment? It's easy to rig the system. Now suddenly, what maybe had more status before or more hierarchy before, it gets diluted again. It doesn't mean that whoever has a ton of followers that they don't have talent or mastery, because you gotta maintain it. But it also means that because anyone can now play, the marketplace is becoming very noisy. And on top of that, what used to be actual competence and mastery has now become who is louder, who's noisier, who is more daring, who is more manic, as okay, that's what people pay attention to: drama, to attention-seeking behaviors, to trying to hype up things to make them look crazy. And that what earns attention, because dopamine spike in the brain and oh my god, like I gotta pay attention. So people naturally became louder and louder and louder and noisier, and whoever made the most noise had the most followers and views, ergo higher status and higher in their hierarchy of what humans now consider worthy or powerful, but because the game is now open to anyone. Which means anyone who's loud can create viral videos. Anyone can pay their way to followership, to viewership, to attention. It means that the real ones sometimes who actually have mastery, if they're not so loud, they might be unnoticed. And whoever actually has huge followers, either they have huge talent and competence or they don't. It's not a prerequisite anymore. And so as society is growing in awareness, and we are, thankfully, because of AI, because of everything that's happening, because even the people who use external status signals like followers, engagements, and because of its availability to now basically anyone, what happens is the audience, they become more and more discerning. So they're not getting dumber. There always be people who cannot discern, but a lot of people are waking up to realize like, hey, wait a minute. Anyone can have fake followers. Anyone can have fake engagement. Anyone can have a photo shoot. Anyone can have PR publications. Anyone can have it. So we need to discern better, and we need to find different ways to recognize who are the real ones. And so this inflated narrative is gonna go out of style. I mean, it always be in style for certain audiences. Let's just say that. But smarter, discerning ones are always going to gravitate to something else. And I'm going to tell you what it is. I think the future of status is actually not necessarily hierarchical, but embodied. So hierarchy and status will come from embodiment. AKA, the more you actually embody what you teach, what you say, who you are, the more naturally people will gravitate to you. And the higher status they're going to give to you, because they recognize that you speak from lived experience. They recognize that this is something you wrestled with and you overcame it. And that has such a distinct signal, guys, that it cuts through noise. And that's where we're headed. We're headed to an era of leaders who are emotionally intelligent, who speak truth, who has wisdom and embodiment on their fields. And we give them higher status, not because of numbers, but because of what they say and how that feels in our body as truth. That's where we're heading. So I find it interesting because the people who grasp into external forces to maintain authority, they will have to understand that this will not be sustainable long term. Because like I said, it's easy if the marketplace is getting diluted. It's easy to see through it. And buyers in the marketplace are seeing through it. This is hilarious, and I can't believe I'm saying this, but the other day, actually yesterday, I have one of my Facebook friends, he's a sales coach, sales trainer, huge business around sales professional training. And I remember this person was writing a post about, hey, like, you guys are doing such a shitty job in DMs, and you're so amateurs, and here's what you do instead. You just start friending people, you comment 7 to 10 times something genuine, and you reach out to them, say glad to be connected, and you shoot your shot. And I commented that that would not work with me, because they would lose me at I'm glad to be connected, and when you're shooting your shot. Because to me, that would retroactively invalidate everything they did before, and I would think to myself, okay, so you only did that because you had an agenda. It was part of a 7 to 10 step process in coming here, and I don't have respect for that. I track intent, not the actual what they did, because I knew it was always to lead somewhere. It was never truthful, it was never pure, it was always agenda driven. And there's nothing wrong with agendas. What I'm saying is, if you only do things, you only act nice, if you only comment and engage so that you can sell, come on now. And you think people don't get it, they don't see through it, then you're thinking that your buyers are not very smart. And there's nothing wrong with having a strategy. It's just that you have to recognize that we are living in an era where trust is not earned through 7 to 10 comments and DMs to shoot your shot. It's earned through time, truth, recognition, resonance, actually giving a crap and making people feel seen and understood, not to sell them, but because you care. So this conversation is something we go deeper in the art of the approach, especially in the lines of the status immunity, which we talked about 2 days ago. If you want to come into the art of the approach, you can still come in. It's now priced at $97, and we already have 4 modules available to watch inside of the program, including status immunity, and you have lifetime access to the replay if you come in. So if you want to come in, link in the description. Once you register, you receive an email with a link to our private group where the live recordings will be. Plus, we have one more module dropping around pacing. So if you're interested in watching that, or learning more about status immunity, or learning more about how to approach people well in a way that's not mainstream, then you can still come in, link in the description of this video. Well, thank you so much for watching and listening to this one, regardless if you come or not. I think we should have more of these conversations because it matters. And thanks so much for being here, and I'll see you guys very soon.